Taoiseach, yesterday you defended to the hilt your decision to scrap the eviction ban at the end of this month. Not alone is this a cruel decision, but it shows once again that your government is not on the side of hard-pressed renters. You've chosen to drop this protection for tenants in the middle of an unprecedented housing emergency. And I want to emphasise, Taoiseach, that small landlords are not responsible for this crisis, the government is. So essentially you had a choice between wealthy investment funds and corporate landlords on the one hand and the needs of ordinary people, and true to form, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil show up for the landlords and the investment funds. You've scrapped the eviction ban without any measures to protect renters from losing their homes. You and Minister O'Brien talk about protections for renters into the future, but with no clarity at all. But this is happening now, Taoiseach. In the coming weeks and months, many will be hit with eviction notices. And we're talking about working families, Taoiseach, people who work very, very hard. They pay their taxes, they pay for everything. Many are trying to save for a deposit. They do all of the right things to keep the show on the road and to build a decent life for themselves and their children. And yet, without a thought for them, you remove a protection that gave some degree of security as the housing crisis swirls all round them. The fear, the stress, the insecurity that this creates for those caught in the private rental trap is enormous. And of course, these fears and worries are compounded by a government scrambling with no real plan, no urgency, no ambition to tackle the housing emergency to the scale required. Taoiseach, renters were already at breaking point, struggling to keep up with extortionate rents and looking at house prices simply beyond their reach. And now your decision to scrap the eviction ban creates a nightmare scenario for them. So what are the choices of any renter now served with an eviction notice, Taoiseach? Do they join the long queues that wind around corners in a desperate search for one of the very few places available? Do they return to the box room of their parents' home? Do they couch surf? Many, you know, will choose to emigrate simply to escape this nightmare. And the reason people are in this situation is because successive governments have failed to deliver affordable housing to rent or buy on the scale demanded by this emergency. The government has thrown in the towel on renters, and Taoiseach, Sinn Féin will be pushing for a Dáil vote on this matter at the earliest possible opportunity because the stakes are so high for renters everywhere. Is gníomh míos dúma an cinna chun an cosc dí halamhú a scrisa. Tá sé seo déinte ag an rialtas gan ein cosantí breise a thuirt de Ciasóirí. Cruhann sé cásna trumlaí I gcóir go leor teaghlaí agus ebrií a déadach a teach a cailas na seachtaní agus sna miana amach roin. So my questions for you are these, Taoiseach. What do you say to those working families who may receive an eviction notice in the coming weeks? Where are they to go? And can you please outline clearly what protections for renters this government is proposing? What are they? And when will they be put in place?
Just before calling the Taoiseach, I want to have the opportunity to welcome to the distinguished visitors gallery His Excellency the British Ambassador Paul Johnston. Taoiseach.
Thanks, Ken Corley. I just want to be associated with your remarks and particularly welcome the Ambassador to the Chamber today. Really good to have the British Ambassador present and look forward to building relations between Ireland and the United Kingdom in the period ahead, particularly as the Westminster framework, or the Windsor framework rather, is implemented. Deputy, on this matter, I really think what you're trying to do here is to create a false narrative, a false choice, and as is often the case, a divisive one. It's not about renters versus landlords or balancing the rights of one against the rights of others. Renters need landlords and landlords need renters. And the problem we have, or one of the many problems we have in Ireland with our housing system, is that we don't have enough landlords. We probably need tens of thousands of more properties available for people to rent, given our growing population. And what happens when landlords leave the market? Rents go up and fewer properties are available, and renters lose out, especially those who need to move, those who are young and are renting for the first time, people who are coming to Ireland to work, need somewhere to rent, and also people coming back to Ireland from abroad, returning emigrants, of which there are tens of thousands every year. And what we've seen in the past couple of years is we've seen over 40,000 small landlords leave the market, and very few have entered. There will always be landlords leaving the market. There will always be a certain number entering. But we need now to stem the flow of small landlords in particular leaving the market and increase the flow of new landlords coming in. We won't be able to turn this around unless we do that. And that's why, Deputy, you see the long queues. When any time a property is put available for rent, you see long queues of people hoping to view it, hoping that that can be the place that they can call home. That's why, Deputy, you see when a property is advertised on a website, it's taken down almost an hour or two later. And that's why, Deputy, you see rents for new tenancies being so high relative to existing tenancies. It's because there aren't enough landlords. There aren't enough properties available. So what we need to do is we need to stem the tide of small landlords leaving the market, and we need to increase the number of new landlords coming into the market. And that's what government wants to do. And we're going to do 4 things to make the situation better. 1, we're going to build more social housing. 2, we're going to ramp up cost rental. 3, we're going to buy properties from landlords where the tenant is a social housing tenant and they've been served a notice to quit. And 4th, we're going to develop and build a budget package to help landlords and help renters even more so than has been the case. So let me expand on that a little bit better. Last year, roughly 8,000 new social homes were built in Ireland. As opposition acknowledged yesterday, or at least one person in the opposition acknowledged yesterday, that's the highest since 1975, the highest in my lifetime, and we're going to increase it even more this year, trying to get towards 12,000 additional social homes. That will make a difference. The second thing we're going to do is ramp up cost rental, a new form of tenancy, a new form of public housing, developed by the last government, being implemented by this one, and that will help people who are above the income limits for social housing. We're going to buy up more rental properties where the tenant is a HAP tenant or a RAS tenant. That means that if the landlord is selling up, we're empowering and funding local authorities, all of which are not controlled by government parties, by the way, empowering those local authorities to purchase those properties, and they should. And we're developing a further budget package to help tenants and to help landlords, because it's not about one versus the other. As I said earlier, you're trying to create a divisive and false narrative that it's landlords versus renters, renters versus landlords. Renters need landlords, landlords need renters. I've answered the Deputy's question. Corla, we're back. The Sinn Féin are back to their old ways again. When you ask them about their finances, you get a deafening silence.
We're out of time now, silence. Sorry. Please.
They run a hide, and then when you actually try to answer their questions, and I did try to answer their questions, they try to shout you down. What sort of party is that?
There's no one shouting you down, Leo. Relax.
Wait now. Sorry. Can we listen to each other respectfully? You can disagree all you like.
Thank you,
Deputy Mary Lewis.
Very well said. So the only false narrative being spun here is that the housing emergency is the fault of landlords. Let me scotch that. It is not. Responsibility for this emergency lies fairly and squarely at the feet of you, Taoiseach, and your government. That's the narrative. You see, the choice here is between having a roof over your head or not, having rent that you can afford or not, having a government that will actually stand up and defend renters or not, having a government with the basic intelligence and cop on to know that you don't create more uncertainty for renters at a time when supply is that tight and rents are so high and people are to the pin of their collar and people are afraid now. There are working families who are afraid of what lies ahead. I asked you to say very clearly What does a family do in the coming weeks and months when they get a notice to quit, when they are evicted? Where does that working family go? And I would like you to answer that question, Taoiseach.
On a point of order, Count Corley. Yes, on a point of order, Count Corley, I really need to put on the record of the Dáil that what we see here is a party that really just can't handle honest democratic debate. They won't answer questions.
It's not a point of order.
Thank you.
This is a government who can't deal with the fact that you've made a decision to increase
Deputy Doherty, you're out of order. The leader's questions. Your leader has posed the question. You're not the leader yet. Now, Deputy.
The Taoiseach made a point of order and questioned the democratic capacities or ability of this party. I might remind the Taoiseach on the last occasion that we went to the polls, this party and these benches secured more votes than your own.
Right.
We are perfectly entitled to represent the people that we represent and to do so robustly. That is at the heart of democratic debate.